Probation officers are finding a huge increase in offenders with weapons. Oh, let's don't blame the weapons that these convicted felons have on gun owners, legal gun owners. We're not giving the weapons to these offenders and to these inmates. No, these weapons, in the majority of cases that are discovered by probation officers, are stolen weapons, underground weapons, black market weapons, street weapons. Yes, you know, the ones that even if we make honest people give up their guns, the bad people, the criminals, are still going to get guns. Now, what does that do for probation and parole and all of us out here? It makes it very dangerous. You know, probation and parole is often overlooked. And I'm sorry to say that. I was a probation officer for a while, a felony probation officer, between my correctional officer time period and my prison inspector time period. And probation officers have a very risky job, going to offenders' homes and neighborhoods, doing house checks and home checks, and you don't know what this offender has in their house. No, they're not supposed to have weapons. That's a violation of probation, an automatic 10 years in prison in many cases if you're found with a felon in possession of a weapon, but yet they still do. Here's an example. A Florida correctional probation officer, senior probation officer, conducted a warrantless arrest, a planned warrantless search. I'm sorry, not an arrest, warrantless search that led to an arrest. The reason the supervisor approved the search was because the GPS monitor went off and they were unable to resolve where this offender was. Well, when they finally got everything together and properly planned their warrantless search, they found a .22 caliber pistol, 120 grams of marijuana, and $8,000 cash. Now, this probation officer, you've seen the pictures I've posted, has to deal with this offender once, twice a month, depending on what the offender was on probation for. Maybe once a week if they're on community control, going to their home, or more than once a week in some cases. And the dangers that this probation officer faces when dealing with an offender who has a weapon. Another example, in Orlando, okay, the gang violence unit from the Orlando Police Department teamed up with the Florida Department of Corrections to check on a felon. Here's his picture, okay? He's a known gang member. When they searched his property, they found a flamethrower, an AK-47, a bulletproof vest, and all kinds of narcotics. Folks, this is what we're dealing with. Yeah, we're going to rehabilitate them, right? We're trying to give them a chance to stay out of prison. They're on probation. Hey, I'd rather be on probation if I was, a convicted felon. I'd rather be on probation, follow my instructions, but at least be free to move about, go to work. But no, I've got to continue to commit crimes and find ways to get weapons and conceal weapons. I'm all for folks getting rehabilitated. I'm all for programs that help these folks. But when these people don't help themselves, there's nothing else we can do. Stop blaming the probation officer. Stop blaming the criminal justice system for examples like I just showed you. Now, here's some more weapons that were just found recently in Florida at another offender's home. Here's the pictures. Look at this. Look what these offenders have. It is just unbelievable that they continue the cycle of crime. Folks, I'm telling you, I was a probation officer. They get a list of rules. They know what they're supposed to do. They sign. If you're a good probation officer, every time you see them, you tell them, hey, keep a job. Let's get you some counseling for alcoholism. Let's get you some into narcotics anonymous or whatever. You know, you put them in classes to help them. Now, they have to go to those classes, folks. Many times it's mandatory, and if it's not, as a good probation officer, you'll try to get them in to some classes to help them. But no, it's always the probation officer's the bad person. They put me in jail. No, you put yourself in jail. And you put your probation officer and the citizens that live around you in grave danger with these narcotics and weapons. You don't care about anybody but yourself. It's unfortunate. But yet, every day, as a probation officer, you strive to save at least one. If you can save one or two of these folks, and they get that paper that shows they're off probation, and they successfully go off into the world and don't come back into our cycle, that's great. You know, a lot of people blame probation. Well, you got no chance. You can't do anything when you're on probation. You had the chance. You went to jail, you went to prison, now you're out on probation, or vice versa. You went to jail, you're on probation before prison to have a chance to save yourself, and then you end up back in prison. Come on, folks. Save yourself sometimes. Don't put the blame on everybody but you, okay? Probation officers are out there doing their job, and they have grave risk. Just in Miami, Florida, not long ago. Here's another case. I'll put it right here. In the parking lot of the probation and parole, 2 people jumped out of a vehicle, ran to another vehicle, and shot a bunch of rounds and killed a person in the parking lot. Okay? In Miami. Another example here in Memphis, Tennessee. I'll put it up there. At the probation and parole parking lot. This guy says he heard shots fired. I think he said he heard 3 shots fired. He thought they were firing at him. So he decided to return fire and almost killed a woman and her child in the parking lot of the probation and parole offices. Oops. What are you doing at your probation and parole offices in the parking lot with weapons? Needless to say, he was arrested and convicted for felon with a firearm. Have I given enough examples? I could go on and on and on. Folks, I wanted to talk a little bit about those people with weapons because they don't care. How could they care about themselves and their future? On probation, free to go about, you know, yeah, you got to check in with your probation officer. Yeah, you have to have a job. Yeah, you have to go to some classes that are mandatory. But come on, life isn't about everything given to you. You have to work for your freedom. And you have to be free from committing crimes. But instead, you're placing everybody in danger. The main topic here is our probation officer heroes that have to deal with these folks and the dangers they face. I just wanted to get that out there. These examples I've given you are just a small, very few that happen week after week across the country with probation officers. Probation officers have a very dangerous environment they work in. Not just when they go out in the field for home visits, but when they are in their offices. As I just showed you a couple of examples of convicted felons coming to their probation and parole officers with weapons. How's that for being bold, huh? Well, we're just going to have to pray that things change soon, but the weapons are out there for felons that want them, and no, they're not coming from people like me who legally own weapons to defend myself. Never use them unless I have to defend my home and my family. Let's thank a probation officer today, and let's make sure that the politicians out there, the state government, the supervisors for your state for correctional probation and parole start providing all the equipment probation officers need to stay safe. They're out there on the streets with the flying bullets, just like the law enforcement officers out there on the streets. And we know the story on that, how many of the law enforcement officers have been getting shot. Let's pray for them as well. Thank you very much. I just wanted to talk about another part of the Department of Corrections, which is Correctional Officer Probation and Parole, unsung heroes that need some compensation, better equipment, and some attention, folks. They're doing a tough job out there. Thank you very much. Please subscribe. Gary York, True Prison Stories.